Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. Today, we're excited to have Mark Abramovich, founder of the MIRS Group and partner at Idoni Management. With a background in engineering and industrial design, Mark holds 7 patents and has transitioned his expertise into real estate. He's focusing on lending and deal analysis. From his roots in Moldova to being featured in REI Inc. magazine, Mark's journey offers invaluable insights. Let's dive into the episode. Uncontested Investing listeners, welcome back to this week's episode. We've got a good one with Mark Abramovich. Mark, we've been talking for what seems like weeks leading up to this interview. I feel like I know you like an old friend now, so I'm really looking forward to this interview. Thank you so much for your time. We've got a bit of a homecoming here, not born, but raised in Brooklyn, New York. I just stole that one from you. I like too much to not put that in the episode, but thank you so much for stopping by our desk today and joining us for an episode.
Nate, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we're going to get into the background, the upbringing, all that good stuff. But first, I want to talk about your journey into real estate specifically. You have a pretty diverse background. I believe there's some, most of your professional life was digital dental equipment.
Yes.
So what sparked the interest in real estate? What made you think that this move or this addition to your professional resume was the right one for you?
So actually, real estate was an accident. It was always in parallel. In 2005, we really were just hanging out at my friend's Pocono trailer, Pocono Mountains. For those that don't know, in Pennsylvania, there's the Pocono Mountains. His parents bought a vacation trailer, and we were there barbecuing, having fun, and the conversation hit, hey, you think anybody would rent if we bought one of these? And, we kind of all said, well, yeah, probably. It's a 2.5-hour drive from New York. Everybody comes up here. And we said, you know what, why don't we pool money and just buy one? And that's how we started. So it always ran in parallel.
That's interesting. It's a beautiful drive and a beautiful place. That's a funny place to start. I just went down for a Stevie Nicks concert a few weeks ago, and that drive through Pennsylvania, through the Poconos, is beautiful. So I can see how that would be the genesis of starting to invest in real estate. But besides your professional background, your upbringing definitely sparked your work ethic, your drive, your aspirations. Can you explain to the audience what that was like for you?
Yeah. So I was born in the Soviet Union. We actually came in 1988 before, the fall of the Iron Curtain, before the Soviet Union ceased to exist. So we came to Brooklyn and, like many immigrants, we came with a couple of $100 and nothing else. And we started from there. One of the funniest stories is how my dad ended up working for a company that he still works for. He went for an interview 6 months in to being in the United States. He was a construction engineer, went for an interview. And when they said, thank you, we'll call you, he didn't have enough English to understand that it was pretty much, thank you, we'll call you. And he showed up for work, and they kind of kept him.
Yeah.
In my case, we were poor. Listen, we didn't have much of anything. So I had that inner drive that, I needed to earn, needed to survive pretty much. Mm-hmm. So my first job at 14 was actually cleaning the office where my mother worked. So I would come in on the weekend and clean it up for $25. My next job at 15, I worked in a restaurant washing the dishes. So it was 12 hours a day, 5 days a week for $2 an hour. The washing the dishes to this day is actually very zen for me. The part that I hated was cleaning the onions. My kids turned around, they listened to the story, and my son turns around and he goes, well, Dad, the reason you cry is because it gets into your eyes, so you should have worn swimmer's goggles to prevent your eyes from tearing up. And I said, well, where were you back then to tell me this?
Could have used you way back in the day. That's so inspiring. I love hearing stories like that. I know there's so many out there, but you don't often get exposed to somebody that still has a true immigrant family story of coming over with a few bucks in their pocket and really making something of themselves. So I can see how that rubbed off on you. That's a great story with your dad, just kind of, let's just show up and see what happens. So that's awesome. Going back to the digital dental equipment and maybe some of the other professions that you've had, our audience is mainly investors, right? That's who we want to tap into, give them the confidence, the skills, the insight to make it in this industry. And a lot of them come with no experience, or they're already in another industry, the dental industry. You know what I mean? So are any skills translatable? Did you feel like Anything that may help you hit the ground running in the investment space because of that?
Yes. So not only is it yes, not only were the skills transferable, in my case, my skills were design, analysis of projects, having to come up with new stuff. So I tell everybody for almost 20 years, my job literally was coming up with new stuff no one has ever seen. So I have 7 patents to my name. Some were for design, some were for innovation, technical innovation. So those skills of analyzing projects and developing them simply ported over to investment and lending, right? Math is math. It's vital. You need it. What's funny is why I was smiling is because I've had a lot of conversations with investors where I tell them exactly that. You can port skills out of other industries and use them here. So, for example, rough example, I had a coworker. We went out to lunch one time, and we're walking and talking, and he was talking about how it's interesting the difference in approaches at work versus at home. He goes, at home, I am the CEO. I'm managing the budget. I'm running the household. I'm doing the shopping. I'm making sure we have food. I'm taking care of everything. And I show up at work, and I'm being told what to do. And it's like I'm a plebe versus the top guy. And it's funny. When I started investing, when I started lending, especially lending, I left my job and I got into it. And I had, initially it was, I'm a new lender, right? I only have a couple of months of experience, only a deal or two, only a year. And then at one point I changed that perspective. I reframed it and I said, no, I'm a designer and engineer with 20 years of experience. So no, I'm not a new lender. I've got 20 years of design and expertise behind me that I'm bringing with me. And it is the same exact advice I now give investors when I talk to them, especially beginner investors. And I ask them, what do you do in your regular life, right? What do you do outside of here? Because that same expertise, that same being able to run a budget, being able to schedule things, being able to manage a household, they transfer right into investing and keeping on track, everything else. So just port it over.
Yep. There's a lot of second guessing about joining the industry. And as you mentioned, it's right under your nose, all the confidence and the skill set that you need. You talk a lot about creativity, the design aspect of it. You make a point in your bio that you're bringing the creativity to real estate. So how refreshing was that for you to be able to find another outlet for your creativity? And really, what does that mean for you when it boils down to it?
So it was actually, I remember the moment. I was sitting in my home office, working on a couple of loans and figuring out how to structure them. And the realization suddenly hit me that I was being an engineer, just in a slightly different medium. It was a fantastic experience. What it means for me is I get to design. I just get to design in a different medium using different tools. Simple example. Right now, I'm working on rolling out a product where we can do, so typical DSCR loans, nobody really likes the sub $100,000 value properties, right? Most lenders won't touch them. Those that do, you need to have a portfolio of properties put together so that the total value will be above 100. I want to solve that problem. So what I'm doing is I'm figuring out, okay, how are we going to originate them? Who's going to buy that note afterwards? Where does the capital come from? So I am designing a product I'm still designing, just in a different industry.
Get a patent for that one too, number 8. I like that. We're off to a great start. We're going to take a quick break for an ad read. We got some segments coming up, the Money Making Minute. Stay tuned. Mark Abramovich, thank you so much for joining us. Can't wait to get into more with you. REI Inc. is the premier monthly publication for real estate investors. Dive into a wealth of expert insights and knowledge from industry leaders and gain valuable regional market insights, ensuring you always have the best information right at your fingertips. Visit REIinc.com to elevate your real estate investment game today. And we're back with this week's guest on Uncontested Investing. It's Mark Abramovich, founder of the MIRS Group. Mark, we're going to get right into it. The Money Making Minute. So this is an investment strategy, a habit, a skill, part of your routine, any bit of advice that you really have that you want to share with our listeners that can help them be successful tomorrow, next week, the rest of 2024 and beyond. So let's hear it. Your Money Making Minute.
For every deal, there is the analysis and the underwriting, and the way I separate them is story and math. The story, for example, with a fix and flip, there is the purchase, the rehab, and the after repair value that the property is being sold for, right? That's the simple story. You're buying a property, you're fixing it up, you're selling it. The underwriting is overlaying the math onto it, actually putting numbers to the story. You don't have to worry about math and, if anybody tensed up on that. It's just putting math to the story. So for example, it's a purchase. What's the amount that you're purchasing for? It's a renovation. Well, how much are you renovating for? And then when you're selling it, how much is the sales price? So you put the numbers to the story. Now, with analysis, there are the 5 critical questions that everybody just needs to ask, and I would suggest you ask them out loud. The who, the when, the where, the why, the what, and then the last question as a bonus here, the how, right? Where is the property? Who is going to be purchasing it? Who's guaranteeing the loan? Who's swinging the hammer and actually doing the work? How are you going to sell it afterwards? Is it going to be for sale by owner, or is it going to be for sale through an agent? So all of these questions help you determine what the story is to gain clarity. And then you just simply plug in the numbers and figure out what your profit is going to be.
Mark, that was a great money-making minute right there, because what you did essentially was take something that people have a lot of anxiety over, they overcomplicate the process, they think about it too much, and you really simplified it down. So I have a feeling that simplification for you is kind of what helped you make the jump from being just an investor to a lender. Can you talk about that journey? Because maybe there are some experienced investors that have felt like they kind of hit their ceiling, and maybe that next outlet of being a lender is a next step for them like it was for you.
So jumping to lending was actually also accidental. And it's funny, it seems looking back on my life, everything is an accidental progression, just an organic growth. We had purchased a property, multifamily property, and we got out of the Poconos. I didn't know enough. And it's funny, in hindsight, we didn't even know about a lockbox that we could have put on the property to let people in with a combination. So I actually was driving back and forth from New York to the Poconos. It was insane. 5-hour round trip to let somebody in and then again to let them out. And I had, speaking of being clear and observing what you're doing, I had actually caught myself passing up on a rental just so I wouldn't have to drive up there. So I realized we needed to get out. So we sold off, got out of it. And then in 2015, we bought a multifamily building. My wife basically said, hey, it's time to get back into real estate. We need to step up our game. And we bought a 6-family building in Connecticut that we still own. But we didn't know enough about running it. And in 2016, my wife stumbled onto a commercial for a free 2-hour class from Fortune Builders about learning about real estate. So we got into it. And what they were talking about was wholesaling, flipping, buying more rentals. And I never wanted to flip. I never wanted to wholesale. There's nothing wrong with it, just it's not of interest to me. And they were talking about how you could be a lender. And that caught my attention. And, we did a loan. In 2017, we did our first loan. It worked out and I was hooked.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Nice. Another happy accident. I love that.
Yes.
So, a little sidebar here.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like you have, quite the power couple going on. We'll get back to your story in a little bit, but
sure.
We talked about your property management company that your wife kind of took the lead on with that, and then the urge to get you back into investing in 2015. How fun has that been for you to share that experience, the business? I'm sure there's some pros and cons for sure, but we can focus on the pros for this interview. How's that journey been doing that together?
It's been wonderful. To have somebody at home who's, as my wife calls it, she holds down the fort, giving me the ability to do what I do. She's an introvert. I'm an extrovert, so it works really, really well. I go out and I network. I meet people. I'm basically the visible face that everybody knows. My wife is in the background, making sure that everything is flowing at home. The businesses are moving, the kids are fed, clothed, the house is in one piece, so that I can focus on doing what I do. We laugh that the man is the head of the household, but the woman is the neck that turns that head. And looking at my life, most of the big decisions were my wife pushing or suggesting or backing me up on making the changes. Leaving my job to get into lending full time and switching career. I mean, my commute was 4 hours each day. It was draining and exhausting. And I loved my job. If it was 5 minutes from home, I probably would have done it at the same time. But that 4-hour commute was terrible. And my wife, I wasn't seeing my kids, or I wasn't seeing my wife. So she turned around and said, you should leave. And it was really funny. I'm still friends with my past manager. We're close friends he was at my wedding. I was at his kid's bar mitzvah, and actually last night I was hanging out with him and his wife, and it was hilarious that I walked into his office and I said, I'm done. I'm leaving. This is my notice. And he looked up at me and he said, what did Inga say? And I said, Inga told me to leave. And he goes, okay, I got it. How long do I have? I said, you have 6 months. So she has been, I want to say, the wind beneath my wings, the rock at my back, the keeper of the protector of the house. Yeah. So
that support system is invaluable. So I'm glad you got to share that. Transitioning back to your personal story, you're a speaker in the industry at a lot of different events, trade shows. What are some of your favorite topics, messages maybe? Is it more focused on the ins and outs or the specific trends of the industry, or you're really focused on connecting with the people and getting through to the actual people listening to you speak?
Getting through to the people listening to me speak. I like to speak on finance in general. It's not so much about how to borrow hard money or how to lend individually. It's about how the money flows through the deal and understanding clearly what the different options are, right? Whether you're on the debt side or whether you're on the equity side, whether you need to borrow equity or whether you need to borrow debt. What are the different options that you have? Are you going to be financing a deal with cash? Are you going to be doing it with a loan? Are you going to bring in an equity partner, or are you going to have a mix thereof, having some cash, some equity, some debt? That's the part I enjoy, giving people that ability, the knowledge and ability to go out there and get deals done. I always laughed when I heard people talk about how, I don't have any money for a deal. I have this deal and I don't have any money for it. And I was always amused because my point was that you're missing one vital word. You're missing the word good. When you have a good deal, money's really easy to find. The problem would be, and this is where analysis is vital, right? And the underwriting of it is that deal has to be good. And then money's easy. Yeah. That's the part I enjoy speaking about. Keeping people safe, how to lend safely, how to invest safely, to understand how money flows through, and giving them the tools to succeed right out of the gate instead of having to get burned.
Yeah, that's a great subject line for any keynote speaking event. I'm sure a lot of people want to attend, keeping them and their money safe, smart investments. So that's awesome. I imagine maybe one of the opportunities or places that you get that opportunity to speak might be the NPLA community that you're a part of.
Not really.
Not really? Okay.
I don't speak there, but I am a member, and it is absolutely wonderful to have that network to back me up. It is incredible to have that caliber of individuals walking the halls, and they're not somewhere up here and I'm somewhere down here. It's that we're equals, and I'm able to piggyback off of their knowledge, off of their experience, and learn from them. I mean, it's incredible. We were at the NPLA in Atlantic City, and it was the after party, and everybody's already partying, and it's just, there's a band playing, and the band was great, and everybody's just relaxing. And it was really funny to look around and realize that, oh my God, this is the hard money for the country flowing through this room right now. It was humbling and amazing, and to be a part of it is incredible.
For the investor as a whole, how important is it to find a community, maybe not NPLA right off the bat, but in a community, a network that they can rely on, switch ideas with, whatever the case may be, bounce ideas off of each other, those sort of things. How important is that to an investor that they find that?
There is an expression that a friend of mine uses, and I'm sure you've heard, which is your network is your net worth. Okay? So, the bigger and better your network, the bigger and better your net worth is, right? Yep. What is it? So, real example, this past weekend, I did a networking breakfast in Detroit, had a couple, had the investors that I do business with there come, had the title agent come, It's a great event. And what's funny is after the event, an investor friend of mine is hanging out. And actually, I'm friends with my clients. I'm friends with the investors I work with. I'm friends with... When I got into this, it's funny. Everybody always tells you, don't do business with friends. And I thought about it and I figured, okay, I'm going to be spending most of my time, most of my day with my fellow investors.
Yeah.
I want to spend my time with friends. Yeah. That's it. I want to be around friends. So my entire approach from the start was I want to do business with friends, which means people I'm doing business with, I want to be friends with them. And then friends I'm friends with, I want to be doing business with them. So I'm in Detroit. I'm hanging out with my friend. And we were discussing how to better project manage, what can he do and his wife do in their business to do it better so that it's easier on them and they can handle more projects. And as we're discussing this, I said, you know what? I can't tell you about project management because I don't do it. I don't do rehabs. I don't do flips, right? That's not my end. I do the finance. But I said, you know what? Give me a second. And I take out my phone and I call up one of my other clients and I said, hey, you got a minute? He goes, sure. I said, I got a question. How do you manage, because I know how many projects he's got going on. I said, how do you manage all of these projects? Like, do you have something you could suggest on how to run these projects? And I put him on speakerphone, and for the next half an hour, the two of them were discussing what to do, how to do it, and what is that network worth? Yeah. What is it worth to be able to pick up the phone and say, hey, I have a question. What do I do? Yeah. Right? You and I were even discussing that you have a background in journalism, right? You're doing this now. I now have this connection with you where I don't know when I'm going to need it, but to potentially pick up the phone and say, Nate, I have a question for you. Can you help out with this presentation or with this podcast or anything else? That is what a network does. So I think it's vital. It's critical. It's, I don't know, pick another synonym out of the thesaurus for how important it is to have a network, because these are the very people who are the experts. I struggled with marketing. And then I got fed up with it. And I said, you know what? I'm going to call somebody up who knows more about it than I do. And I'm going to ask them for their help. I needed to do a video. I did a presentation and I needed to cut up the video to take out just my portion of the entire, today out of the entire day. Yeah. So, okay, the person sent me the video. I go online, I try to open up Microsoft Video Editor. Guess what? Microsoft removed it out of Windows in one of their updates. And I'm sitting there struggling to do this update. I think, I'm not spending my time anymore on this. I picked up the phone and I called up a friend of mine who had 13 years of doing video editing for Apple.
There you go.
That's your network.
There you go. That's a good person to have in the contact book. Two great points there. Just a little podcast synergy. I think it kind of dates back to your approach when you got your first investment property. Mm-hmm. You were on a vacation with your friends in the Poconos. So that's another cool full circle moment. And the people that edit these videos, and Mackenzie, the marketing person that works on the podcast with me, she'll laugh because our previous host still finds a way to haunt us, Tim Harridge. We love him, but his tagline at the end of every episode was, your network is your net worth, and today you've been growing both. So whenever I hear that, I think that's the second time in my tenure that a guest has dropped that tagline, so it always gets a wry smile out of me. It's ingrained into my brain, him saying that, so that's funny. A step further, though, when you get into these networking events and you're in these situations where you're trying to impress people, these first impressions, right? What's something, I think we're giving it away with our attire, but what's something that they can do that gives them a leg up that you feel in this industry?
Being dressed professionally. I would rather be the overdressed in the room rather than the underdressed in the room. It's funny, Netflix has a new series called The Brother's Son. And it was hilarious when in it, he's explaining how let the suit do the work for you, right? The presentation of it. Not to harp on it, but consider you've got two people that you want to do business with, right? Where two people are offering a product. And it's a simple contrast, right? One person is wearing a full suit, tie, the whole thing. And the other one is unkempt, torn, wife beater, pair of flip-flops and shorts. Innately, who would you rather do business with, right? We're told, it is. We're told, never judge a book by its cover. But yet, we do judge by covers, right? Mm-hmm. That instant meeting, right? When you meet somebody for the first time, no matter what, your brain instantly makes a decision of like or dislike. yes, it's possible that once they get to know you, they may change their opinion of you. I have this unfortunate trait of being straight and blunt, especially growing up in New York, right? 28 years in New York, you can take the boy out of Brooklyn.
Yeah.
It's tough to take Brooklyn out of the boy. And what's funny is I've had this happen numerous times where people, when they first meet me, think I'm abrupt and, unpleasant, or I guess gruff is a better way to explain it. And then once they get to know me, they're like, wow, you're really cool, and, you're much more mellow and whatever. Because, for example, when it gets to talking about projects and deals, right, I just need the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, forget the story, just give me the numbers, right? What's your purchase rehab ARV? What's your credit score? What's your experience?
Yeah.
I genuinely want to know your story, but I need the numbers. So the same thing going back to attire, right? When somebody meets you, they see you, and what is it that they're seeing, right? What's the immediate perception? It doesn't take much to impress, right? Walking into a professional setting doesn't take much between Macy's, Men's Warehouse, Brooks Brothers, whatever it is, right? What does it cost to walk in, get yourself a suit, get yourself a nice pair of shoes, a tie, a shirt, so that when you walk into a professional setting without saying anything, nobody will know your experience until you open your mouth and tell them. Nobody will know whether you're lending your money or whether you're brokering or anything else until you open your mouth and tell them. But they will look at you and form an opinion immediately.
Yeah, very, very powerful stuff. And I love a good pair of sweatpants, but as you mentioned, there's a time and a place where you have to make that adjustment, make that change, make that strong first impression, because it opens so many doors for you and allows you to have so many conversations that, as you mentioned, some people just won't have with you based on your attire. So those networking events, it's important to dress to impress, dress for the role that you want, for the people you want to work with.
And a small reminder, Zoom chic, right? Don't forget, and this actually, it was something that I needed to remind myself about as well, that when you're on Zoom, you still need to present that same way too. As much as I love wearing Superman t-shirts around the house, and the reason I wear them is for my kid, as a reminder to myself to be a super dad for my kids. It doesn't exactly work well on an NPLA
trade show,
bi-weekly Zoom, actually.
Yeah.
So
good stuff with Mark Abramovich. Mark, thank you so much. We're going to take another quick break. We'll be back with the last segment. I know people are sticking around for it. This episode has been dynamite so far. So, Mark, thank you. We'll get back into Deal Breaker, Deal Maker right after this. At RCN Capital, we know that time is money. With our competitive rates and quick turnaround time, you can receive funding in as little as 10 days. We offer flexible payment plans to relieve the pressure of the repayment process. Our team is experienced in making sure that you choose a loan that will suit you best. So get on the phone with a loan officer today by emailing info@rcncapital.com or clicking the link in our bio. We're back with Mark Abramovich from the MIRS Group, the founder of the MIRS Group. Mark, this has been an awesome episode so far.
Thank you.
Thank you for your insights, and I think you're going to deliver another great one for our audience with the Deal Breaker, Deal Maker. So essentially what this segment is for our first-time listeners, what causes deals to break down? What traits does a bad deal have? And then on the other side, what do all successful deals have in common? Let's hear your Deal Breaker, Deal Maker.
For the deal maker and the deal breaker, the deal breaker is lack of clarity. And this applies to lack of clarity on my presenting the deal options to my clients, and they don't clearly understand why it's the best option for them. It is a deal breaker is if they don't clearly understand why this deal makes sense for them and they should do it or shouldn't do it. So the deal breaker is lack of clarity. On the other hand, the deal maker is clarity on the deal as well as referrals. What makes my deals is referrals. Money is in the follow-up. So following up with my clients helps me get deals with them. And then on the other hand, they will now refer people to me. Somebody that gets referred to me, I don't have to work as hard, right? You guys don't have to work as hard for somebody that was referred to you and now has a warm introduction. That coldness, that cold calling that people are so afraid of, that goes away with a referral. People now want your services because they've had somebody else give you that credibility of this is a great person to work with.
Mark, appreciate the insight on the deal breaker, deal maker. Next, I want to get into your professional experience and how vital that is to you. You seem like somebody that has all the knowledge and the information, but you don't forget to live life and have these experiences, try new things, try different things. So when you're looking back on your career, how vital do you think all of that journey has been for you for where you are today?
It gave me subject matter expertise. It taught me to have subject matter expertise. It taught me how to analyze a deal. And if I didn't have an answer, to dive in and do the research and find the answers that I needed. So I never cared, I never worried about giving a presentation in my career, in my engineering career, because I had the answers. I could always fall back on the knowledge and the subject matter expertise. The same thing happened with lending. I made mistakes initially, and when I made mistakes, is an ego blow. I'm Mark, the lender. I have engineering expertise. I've got patents. I should be able to do this, easily. And first was the ego blow, but then I did what I think I do best, which is I dove into learning anything and everything I could about lending. Learning about how to structure deals, legalities, the LTVs, the percentages, all of that stuff. So that today, when I talk about it, I don't have to make anything up. I'm not, I'm not fibbing. I'm not kind of, I don't like, I don't like speakers that, I don't like speakers. I don't like fluff, right? I want to deliver content. So when I speak, I essentially fall back on, again, whatever my subject matter expertise is, right? And today, with over 300 deals done, there's that expertise. With even the mistakes I've made, the money I've spent on education, all of it gives me the expertise to be able to rely on it when I speak and have that comfort.
You mentioned Mark, the lender there. Everybody that gets successful in this business, though, they have two sides to the story, right? There's the professional side, but then there's also the personal side. We spoke about your wife. You have a family. So what are some of those challenges? What's that like for you when you're trying to balance being a dad, being a husband, and also running a successful business or businesses in your case?
It's tough. I'm not going to lie about it. It's tough. Being able to just turn off the phone at a certain point in the day and not take any more calls, it's tough. On the one hand, my kids know, for example, oh, dad's on a call or dad's on a Zoom, we'll be quiet. At the same time, I do my best to spend as much time as I can with them. So I have two kids. I have two boys. One is 14, one is 9. I make it a point to be at their activities. I make it a point to, for example, when the soccer season was running, and actually the next season is coming up, I was there for practice. I was there for the games. If I couldn't be there for practice because I was traveling on business, then I made sure to be at the games. I come home, I go out with them. We'll go out, have dinner, do something. We'll go out to the park. All three of us take karate. So actually, I've done martial arts my whole life, and, I laugh. It was a lot easier at 14 than it is at 44. But so I put my kids in karate, and I was essentially sitting around watching them doing it. And then I figured, okay, if I'm already spending the time sitting here with them, I might as well just get on the mats.
Yep.
So we do karate together, and it gives me a chance to show them that, hey, if your dad's huffing and puffing and going, guess what? You better huff and puff and keep going too. Bruised knuckles, okay. Pain in your muscles are hurting, so are mine. Kind of lead by example. The good thing is, I don't have really passion projects outside of lending and everything else, right? I had a decision to make. Was I going to be a Mark the lender by day and I'm Mark something else by night? And I realized that I couldn't do that, right? I want to be, this is it. This is who I am, right? I'm the guy who's providing financing, talks about it, does it, leads by example. And so there's nothing else outside of it. So there's essentially just my family life and professional. In my family life, I try to spend as much time as I can with my kids. And then what karate does for me personally is that it gives me a chance to turn off my brain. What happens, you asked me what happens when I close my laptop and I'm done for the day. When I step onto that mat, there is no thought of, oh, what do I have to do? There's no more decision making. At that point, It's all about, I have to do what the sensei says, right? He says do 100 push-ups. Okay, I'm going to sweat, I'm going to grunt, I'm going to groan, I'm going to, I might collapse from exhaustion, but I will do 100 push-ups. And that is what I show my kids, right? 100 push-ups, then we're going to do 100 push-ups. We're going to have to do 200 sit-ups, we're going to do 200 sit-ups. There's nothing else to it. And I try to, on the one hand, encourage them as we're doing it. And on the other hand, I try to kick them in the butt, if they're not doing it. So
it's a good balance. Am I talking to a black belt in karate right now? Is that what you're telling me? Okay.
Not yet. That is a goal for me.
Nice. That's awesome.
That's really the goal. I should have done it earlier, but now that is truly my goal. Like outside of professional work, that is my goal. A black belt, which hopefully may have next year.
Yeah, but Mark, thank you so much. I think the last thing to do is, how can people find out more about you, talk to you? I know you mentioned you're available, you got your business hours, but I think a lot of people are going to watch this episode and be like, I got to talk to that guy. I got to have some of his knowledge, insight, passion rub off on me. So, share how they can find you.
Very easily. www.mirsgroupllc.com. MIRS is spelled M as in Mark, I as in Inga, R as in Robert, S as in Sebastian, groupllc.com. You can find my email there, our phone number. Yes, you're welcome to reach out. I'm also planning to start a regular Zoom Ask Mark the Lender. So we'll be talking about finance and everybody can answer their, get their questions answered.
Mark the Lender, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much. I think our audience, like I said, they learned a lot today. We appreciate you stopping by. We're going to have to do a part 2, I think. This was a fun time. So thank you for stopping by today.
My pleasure. Thank you, Nate.
To our uncontested investing listeners, thank you for joining us. I'm sure you learned a lot today. We'll see you all next week. Till the next one.
Thank you for listening to Uncontested Investing. Questions about today's episode or the podcast? Email podcast@rcncapital.com and make sure to follow REI Inc. magazine on LinkedIn and Facebook and RCN Capital on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. See you all next time.